Who is the strongest man beneath the heavens? 4,000 years of history with a superpower that many faced. Countless men lay their lives for the power that was most probably built on the deaths of many more. Of all the emperors that ruled ancient China, could anyone hold the title of the strongest? No. Your heritage is irrelevant when it comes to these matters. One must consider the valor a man possesses, the valor that strikes fear in the hearts of many. Even a little stroll among common men makes them all bow down to the one with the look. Experience is also irrelevant. What matters are how many people you take down, how many heads you take off, with one swing. Strength possessed by a man that makes all others shake in fear and submit to you. The important question is, who in all eternity is capable enough to claim the title of the strongest man? Who exactly should receive this title and be worthy of it as well? Does the title belong to the man who said he possessed the powers and the will of God? The man who took down 100,000 men with a mere 1,000 men of his own during the Battle of Pengcheng? The overlord of the Western Chu, Xiang Yu? No, it's not him either. Is it the man who single-handedly changed the outcome of war? The general of 18 years? The man who swore to fulfill his duty to his nation till his very last breath? The most loyal Yue Fei? No, not him either. Maybe the invincible undefeated general, Bai Qi? Nope. What about the man who had fortunes when even stolen never ran out, Wei Qing, number? Or the mighty general whose aura was enough to silence a crying baby, Yang Dian? Not him either. The man who is the strongest, the most feared, the fiercest, the most loyal. A man who all worshipped and obeyed. The name of the strongest man in all of history is Lu Bu. This is a story about Lu Bu, the man who flew through battlefields and whipped past enemies. The legend of Lu Bu shall now begin. The year 4000 was the messiest year China had ever seen. It was the time of the Three Kingdoms. The era of the Three Kingdoms became the messiest when all three nations of Wu, Shu, and Wei were trying to make one nation. The nation drenched in the souls of the lost. Even the power-hungry lords who would do anything for more power admitted that there was just one person who was capable of holding the title of the most powerful man. Lu Bu Haosen was a man who had reached an unreachable peak. There exist 7 legends, and this man is one of them. The story takes place in Xuzhou. 196 DC Lu Bu's army strategist, Chen Gong, rushes on his horse. He is very late to some place, and clearly very stressed about it as well. Lu Bu's men follow him close. Several men approach Chen and his men, which stresses Chen out more. He needs to reach Lu Bu quick and inform him of the attack by the army. There is no chance that this is just a coincidence. Someone ratted them out. Maybe there was an informant hidden among Chen's own men. Following Chen close by were around 30,000 men. The invaders have come, and they need to hurry up before they get trampled. Chen looks at the men who trail close. The men are fearless with the best armors and for some reason, really angry. He looks for the general of Yuan Shu's army. The general is a buff man with huge muscles who calmly rides his horse. This is Jiling. Emperor Yuan Shu, who called himself the Lord of the Sengoku world, sent Li and his men to finish off Lu Bu's men and take over the land of Xuzhou. Li and his 30,000 men were to enter the territory and take down whoever stood in their way. Chen's men tell him that there are around 30,000 men coming for them. They need to reach the Zapi castle immediately and form a defense strategy. Their first priority is obviously getting out of the enemy's sight. Chen grits his teeth and signals his horse to go faster. They need to inform Lu Bu of this as soon as possible. Li watches the men ride away on their horse, making a quick path to the Zapi castle. He pulls out a weapon and smiles like a menace. He aims at the nearest man and lets the arrow go. It impacts the man, and he falls on the ground. This type of weapon works up to only 400 meters, but since Li isn't an ordinary man, the arrow goes much further. Chen watches one of his men fall down to the ground. Before he can help the man, his other men drag him away. They need to get Chen to safety, otherwise they are all doomed. Li prepares another round. These rats won't escape for long when he is here. He will let a few men go. Soon, Lu Bu will remember what Li did to him and his territory. At the Zapi castle, Chen walks around a table. He pulls his hair to come up with a good strategy against a big, powerful army like Yuan's. He slaps his face and forces himself to think, clearly frustrated at the lack of wisdom coming to him. A huge man with many tattoos walks in the room and spots Chen. This is the Flying General, better known as Lu Bu Haosen. He asks what Chen is worried about. Chen bows down to Lu Bu and informs him of the incoming warriors and the destruction they are bringing to the nation of Xuzhou. At this moment, Zapi is surrounded by 3,000 men from Liu Bei's army and 30,000 from Yuan's army. If Zapi falls, the territory of Xuzhou will have no chance fighting these big monsters. Zapi only has around 8,000 men, and those men will not stand a chance again, men that are 4 times their numbers. Trying to capture a camp just to get to Li will be near impossible. Lu Bu watches the pieces on the board. He offers to take care of Li and his men. That's the only thing they are worried about at the moment. Chen stresses over how he needs an army of 10 or 20,000 men just to pull this off. They clearly don't have any men. Lu Bu says that he doesn't need any men at all. He moves the piece that shows him and his horse ambush Li himself. If Chen follows Lu Bu's plan, they will win for sure. Chen doesn't believe Lu Bu. He worries for his safety. Even as the most powerful man, he alone cannot defeat 30,000 men. This makes Lu Bu mad. Nothing is impossible for him. Chen might as well commit treason while he is at it. Chen shuts up immediately. He doesn't want to get on the bad side of a man who is 3 times his size. There is a shift in aura. Chen feels like something great is about to happen. In Xiaopei, Liu Bei sits on top of a wall and watches the men march outside. He finds this scene very interesting. He looks at another man sitting next to him drinking like his life depends on him. The man says that he is very excited to face Yuan's underling Li. This man is Zhang Fei. Next to him, another man stands tall. He is the third brother Guan Yu. His only purpose is to protect Xuande's life. The brothers look at the men waiting for them. They could fight like noble warriors and be remembered as great honorable men, or they could run away and live miserable lives forever. The men wonder which is the better option. Outside the castle, the men waiting for battle laugh among each other. All of them have hopes for winning this pointless battle and returning home to drinks or women. A man shows his tiger tattoo to his friend, which he made himself. His friend thinks that it looks more like a cute fluffy cat. Something lands in the front lines of the battlefield. The men watch as the smoke clears. A man on a horse waits for them. They don't know who it is and where he came from, or what it is even. The only thing on their minds is to fight it and send it back. The men bet on each other and race to defeat whatever is in front of them. The smoke clears, and it reveals the flying general himself. He looks at the men with a stern look. Behind him sits a very scared Chen, who begs Lu Bu to turn around and reconsider. The men shake in fear and excitement to see the infamous Lu Bu right before their eyes. Lu Bu sets his flag in the ground. This battle is over because he is here. None of the men move a muscle, and Lu Bu smiles at his powerful influence. From the men, Li makes his way to the front. He smiles at Lu Bu, mocking him for his late appearance to the battlefield. The generals face each other, not blinking, not smiling. Li starts slandering Lu Bu. How will he face Li and his 30,000 men all alone on a single horse? Lu Bu stands unfazed. He plans on taking everyone down and putting an end to this battle here and now. Li smiles at his bravery, which he calls stupidity. He makes a bet with Lu Bu. There is a weapon some meters away from them. Lu Bu must hit it from a great distance. If he wins, the war will be over, and Li will go back home. If he loses, he will be given a one-way ticket to heaven from Li himself. Chen hears the deal and falls down, begging Lu Bu to not fall for Li's manipulation tactics. He tells Lu Bu that this is impossible. Once again, Lu Bu gets mad. How dare anyone assume that any task is impossible for the mighty Lu Bu? Lu Bu is a man of dignity and honor. He will do just as Li wants and prove him wrong. He gets off his horse and asks Li the range for the target. A man offers a bow to Lu Bu, but he refuses. He doesn't need a stupid bow. He will use the flag he brought. He orders Chen to fetch the huge flag. Chen does as he says, but almost drops the flag due to its heavy weight. Chen wonders what Lu Bu eats to carry such a big flag all by himself. Lu Bu grabs the flag and shows his strength off to Li. He grabs his flag in hand and aims at the point where his target is. A long-ranged weapon relies on for things only. Ready, aim, hold, and pierce. Lu Bu throws the flag with all his strength, following the 4 points. Ready, aim, hold, and pierce. The flag leaves his hand and soars through the sky like a mighty dragon. On top of the wall where the target is, Zhang stands with his weapon in hand, ready to deflect the flag away and make Lu Bu lose the bet. Before he can even get near the flag, it takes Zhang down and hits the target. A 2-in-1 shot. Xuzhou's flag stands tall, with pride on the enemy walls. The enemy stares in horror and awe. The scene is too good to be forgotten. Those who have witnessed it are truly blessed and lucky. Chen sheds tears of joy. He is happy to know that Lu Bu won the battle. A single strike took down an army of 30,000 men. A single man was able to defeat the fearless army of Yuan. Lu Bu looks back at Chen. He asks what he thought of the aim and the strike. Chen could not be any prouder. Back at the Sipa castle, Chen admires Lu Bu's strength. He is a man that makes the impossible become possible. Chen was a little worried when Lu Bu headed in the battle recklessly, but the flag he threw went whoosh along with the victory of Xuzhou. The time period is now 189 DC. Luoyang is a huge city with millions of people. It is also the largest cities in the world, only thanks to the superpower, the capital of the Han Dynasty. However, during that time, there was a man who was not yet the emperor of the Han Dynasty. A huge man sits at a table and eats to his heart's desire. The actual emperor, Jian, stands next to him with his head low in shame. The man, Dong Zhuo, eats happily with no care in the world. His chief and servant Wu Qiong introduces the three culprits of the war in China: the Emperor Shan, his horse the Red Hare, and the third warrior who is unknown. In order to become the strongest warrior, Dong needs to defeat the third jewel of China. He is the strongest man in China, a man so powerful people call him the god of war. This man is no other than Lu Bu Housen. Wu needs Dong to defeat Lu Bu so no one can ever threaten Dong from his rightful place as the leader of China. Dong smiles like a menace. He already has the two jewels, Jian and the Red Hare. He will take care of the third jewel, Lu Bu Housen. The time has come to claim him as well. After swearing his loyalty and protection to the Emperor Xian, Dong rose to the ranks and claimed the spot of the emperor for himself. In his hand, he has the power to control the strongest army in all of Luoyang. He was the first man who ever came close to unifying the nation of China. He was able to find great warriors to join his side within a very short time. Wu sits next to Dong as they ride to battle the Flying General. Wu claims that he finds the name the Flying General to be very pretentious and exaggerated. He can't be that good. Lu Bu has never fallen even once. He flies through the battleground like he has wings. He has never been tied to anyone ever. Wu asks Dong for confirmation if he really has what it takes for him to bring down Lu Bu. Dong says that it is a good thing Lu Bu is a free spirit. He will bring Lu Bu back to Luoyang and make him bow down to him while putting a pretty collar around his neck. Lu Bu will accept Dong as his leader. After all, he needs a dragon on his side when he takes over the world, and he doesn't want that dragon to bite his own neck. He asks Wu why no one has ever tried aiming the dragon's neck. Wu looks ahead at an odd clearing in the forest. All the trees have been cleared to form a path while the rest of the forest stands on both sides of the path. Dong laughs. Maybe this is a sign that they are closer to the dragon's den. The clearance is a sign that Dong is already inside the dragon's nest. In some distance, Lu Bu is making a pile of boulders. The boulders form mountains of their own. Wu jumps at the opportunity to glaze another lord. He presents Dong's offer to hire him for a huge sum of 10,000 wushu, 200 silk pieces and 20 precious jewels. All of this, and all he needs to do, is become a general in Dong's army. Lu Bu doesn't care about these meaningless riches. He tells Dong and his men to get lost and gets back to throwing boulders on top of his makeshift mountains. Wu doesn't back down. He asks if Lu Bu has been offered a better position by someone else. China isn't a small nation after all. Lu Bu doesn't answer. Instead, he repeats his words. He tells them all to get lost. Wu tries again. If Lu Bu doesn't want to join Dong's army, he can always become an ally. The next emperor will be Dong, and being his ally will have great perks. Together they can rule all of China. Such an offer shouldn't be dismissed so easily. Dong steps in, himself. He tells Lu Bu what he feels. He has such raw talent and strength. It's a waste to stay in this purgatory with such strength. He asks if Lu Bu ever feels bored in this wasteland. Putting his act together, Dong even manages to shed a few tears. He asks Lu Bu if he wants to fight stronger men and prove his worth to the world. Lu Bu turns around and faces Dong. He tells him one simple fact: the strongest in the world is him. Dong laughs at this claim. He steps off his carriage and stands in front of Lu Bu. Both men stare at each other with a strange look. Dong says that he wants a taste of Lu Bu. Lu Bu lets him. He punches Dong straight in the face. Dong smiles. He says that Lu Bu tastes delicious. Now it is Lu Bu's turn to taste Dong. Dong punches Lu Bu in the face. Lu Bu praises Dong that he is pretty good too. Lu Bu asks Dong if he knows someone else who is strong. Dong takes his own name. He is the fierce tiger of Jiangdong Sun Jian. Wu watches from far away. This isn't a fight he wants to miss for the world. A fight between a tiger and a dragon. A fight that would decide who is the most powerful of all men. The dragon smiles at the tiger. In the year 191 DC, the Battle of Hulao Pass took place. Dong Zhuo turned the Emperor Xian of Han into his little puppet. With this power, he planned to rule the earth under the heavens. But in his way, all the heroes united to overthrow him. The Cao Cao army, the Liu Bei army, the Sun Jian army joined forces under one flag with a promise to take Dong down. Wang Quang, Tao Qian, Ma Teng, Gong Sun Zan, and all other famous warriors united to join the armies. With the governor of the Ji province, Yuan Shao, as the leader of the revolution, these men created the Guangdong coalition to bring down Dong Zhuo. With around 100,000 men, they marched to end Dong and his evil regime. Against them was a small arm of only 30,000 men, and with this, the battle began. The first to gain advantage at the battlefield was the Dong army. 500 men, led by the powerful army vanguard Hua Xiong, were like birds in the battlefield. They flew through the enemies and swept the grounds clean with precise aims. Hua Xiong did not fear any man, nor did he stop. Any man who challenged him met his blade. and that was the end of their story. Thanks to his huge build, all opponents, no matter how big, were very small. A man challenged Hua, but he met his early demise before he could even declare his own name. Hua simply told the man to leave as his body fell to the ground. Within a few minutes, Yuan's vanguard of around 10,000 men fell. A single man took down 10,000 of the best men. At the right wing of the Guangdong coalition, the Sun Jian army swooped through the enemy lines. A messenger reaches Huanggao Gongfu and delivers the news of the fallen men. Huang stops for a moment to hear this devastating news. The man who caused this is none other than Hua Xiong. The men shake in fear after they hear his name. Huang grabs his head, this type of an opponent in a major pain in the butt. Hearing this news, Chengpu Demo, Handong Yigong, and Zhu Mao prepare to face off Hua Xiong. The Sun Jiang army is inferior to none, and they will prove it to the enemy. Before they can even reach Hua, Hua makes his grand entrance. He tears through the men and stands face to face with the three men. They admit that he is no less than a reckless monster without a leash. The Elite Three guide their men into battle formation. They will not fight this tyrant head-on. They will instead take him from the sides. Hua doesn't stop. He crushes the men and says that the Sun Jiang army is very small too. The men point their weapons at Hua, but he is huge, and he is fast. They are at a major disadvantage in front of this beast. Before more men attack Hua, he confesses that he is only here for the man named Sun Jiang. He does not want to fight or waste his energy on small fries like the footmen of the army. He demands that Sun Jiang shows his face. Before he knows it, Huang attacks Hua. They fight for some time, both equally matched in strength and power. Hua calls Huang a funny little brat for thinking he could even stand against a superpower like him. Huang informs Hua that his general is not available at the moment. Maybe Hua can politely leave and come back at a better time. Hua doesn't like this news at all. He tells Huang that he will send him to heaven himself, similar to how he issued tickets to heaven to other men in this stupid little revolt. Hua attacks Huang with all his strength, and Huang's weapon breaks. He barely dodges the demonstration of brute strength from Hua. His horse isn't so lucky though. Hua prepares to strike again. He will take Gongfu's head with him. Before the hit can land, a new weapon is thrown at Hua. He catches it with his bare fist and looks at the source of the weapon. A man with long hair and pretty eyes sits on a horse looking at Hua like he is a little baby throwing a tantrum. This man is Sun Jiang Wentai, the commander-in-chief of the Sun Janag army, better known as the man who Hua was looking for. Hua just wants to know who this poser is. He was just giving out a heaven ticket to Huang. Huang looks at Sun Jiang and tells him that he is late to the fight. Any later and he would not have seen Gongfu again. Sun Jiang laughs and tells that his woman wasn't letting him go. Demo takes great offense from this. This is a battle to decide the next ruler under the heavens, and Sun Jiang was busy with a woman. Sun Jiang calls Demo a jealous man. Just because he is popular among the ladies doesn't mean he should be envied for it. Hua steps behind Sun Jiang and asks him his name. Sun Jiang introduces himself. He is the infamous Sun Jiang of Jiangdong. This man is more commonly known as the Tiger of Jiangdong. He is a direct descent of Sun Tzu, who was famous for his book, The Art of War. When he was only 17, this man got rid of all the pirates of Jiangdong. He is one of the greatest heroes of his time. Hua drinks from his bottle and gets excited for his next opponent. He was waiting for this chance for a long time. Sun Jiang looks at Hua and praises him for his power. Gongfu mentions that he is a real monster. Sun Jiang's men step in to help their commander, but Sun Jiang stops them. He will handle this little kid alone. Sun Jiang takes off his coat and tells the men to take good care of his soldiers. As the leader of the Sun Jiang army, he will take care of Hua himself. Hua prepares his weapon. He will take Sun Jiang as a trophy for his Chancellor Dong. Sun Jiang is simple better, so he just jumps around and lands one hit and the fight is over. Hua falls to the ground, and with that, the beast is no more. Sun Jiang praises Hua's strength, but he is not agile enough to match with Sun Jiang. Sun Jiang tells his men that he has defeated the general Hua Xiong. Gongfu scoffs in the background along with Demo. Somehow, he always gets the best parts of the fights. Hua's men fall back and run away from the battlefield with their tails between their legs. Sun Jiang says that since he has come so far, he will not leave empty-handed. He will take Dong with him like a trophy from war. The men in the Sun Jiang army tell him to take it easy. Winning the war is already a difficult task. Taking their leader down is a whole different territory. Sun Jiang celebrates with his men, but he looks up at a mountain. He sees a shadow standing up looking down at the small camp of men. Sun Jiang knows the aura this shadow possesses. It's a beast that is even worse than Hua Xiong. There is no doubt this is a very strong dragon. This can mean only one thing. Lu Buhausen himself is taking part in this war, and things just got a whole lot realer. The commanders face each other and say nothing for a long time. Sun Jiang's elite men comment on how the dragon has finally decided to come out of its den. His aura alone is enough to make a grown man weak in the knees. The ordinary men shake with fear under his strong, piercing gaze. All of them are somewhat amazed to see the raging dragon face to face. Sun Jiang himself is surprised to see this man on the opposite side. Demu warns Sun Jiang to not face this opponent. This is not any ordinary man or a human at all. It's a raging beast that cannot be tamed. Sun Jiang keeps looking at Lu Bu. This is the first time in all his life that he feels genuine fear for his life. The fight might not even begin, and he will be on the ground. Sun Jiang calms Own and pulls out his weapon. He will face this man even if he is afraid. A bell rings on the battlefield. The men are given orders to retreat back to their camp. The Sun Jiang army already has a trophy to display. They don't need to make unnecessary sacrifices. Sun Jiang is a little disappointed, but he orders his men to fall back. They all leave with their loot. Lu Bu watches the tiger of Jiangdong. He hopes that Sun Jiang is a worthy opponent and doesn't let him down. The Zhou army fell apart once their strongest was defeated. The coalition was quick to grab their victory, and with that, the first battle was won by the Guangdong coalition. At night, the men celebrate with drinks around a fire. They talk about how easy it was to defeat Huaxiong. All it needed was a flick of the wrist. The war couldn't be any easier to win. In the commander's camp, the elite eat dinner, but the atmosphere is not very light. They comment on how easy it was to boast about the victory when you did neat to nothing. Sun Jiang was the one who defeated the beast Huaxiong, but the men are taking all the credit. It's probably because they didn't see the next monster waiting with its mouth open. The next battle will not be so easy. It is all a game of strategy now. Avoiding fighting Lu Bu is the best way to go around this war, but if they do not defeat him, they will never be able to win the war. The men look at the food with unease. Is it even possible for a human to defeat a dragon? Sun Jiang looks at his sulking men and decides to lighten the mood. He calls them a bunch of sore losers who have never faced a real opponent till now. He asks Gong Fu to stand up, and then beats him up. Gong Fu says that this was really uncalled for, but Sun Jiang just calls it a necessary fortune-telling. According to what is going on in Gong Fu's pants, they won't be winning this war. The men laugh and Sun Jiang feels happy to make them smile. They shouldn't worry about the war. It has just begun. Today was their first victory. They need to celebrate. They're already half-baked warriors. They come from nothing, so they have nothing to lose. The men nod their heads in agreement. Sun Jiang's upbringing has always been unclear. He is a respected leader among the others, because power does not come from inborn status. It comes from your charisma and your strength. This rule has been followed in the Three Kingdoms since forever. He alone was able to unite many armies to make one strong army against a big, powerful enemy. Sun Jiang tells his men that as long as they live, they can always climb the ranks back up. They have nothing to fear. He removes his shirt and shows off his tattoo. The tattoo is a famous line from Sun Tzu's Art of War. Treat your men as you would your own beloved sons, and they will follow you into the deepest valley. He makes them promise to live for him. If they fulfill their promise, he will take them to the peak of China. Sun Jiang laughs and then falls asleep immediately. The men laugh at him for drinking so much even when he knows he cannot handle his drinks. The men agree that he is an idiot, but he is a lovable idiot. Sun Jiang gives them hope for a better, brighter future. With him, they don't feel like they are losing. No wonder everyone respects him so much. In front of the gate of Hulao, the Guangdong coalition gathered once more. In order to get to Luoyang, they need to break through the gate of Hulao. The 100,000 men start marching to the gate. The view is amazing. For long distances, you cannot see anything but people. The men of the coalition are happy that the war will soon be over. They can't wait to rest their feet and enjoy themselves for some time. The gate to Hulao opens and a singular man stands in front of it. The elite notice who he is and how messed up the situation just got. The ordinary men laugh at the singular man standing in front of the gate. He looks really pathetic, standing all alone, a last man to defend the gates. Those who are aware of just who he is are not so pleased with the situation. They already dread what is about to come from this battle. If there is one man, just one man, who can stop 100,000 men from invading, that is Lu Bu Fengxian. Lu Bu introduces himself to the enemy. They will settle this battle with a duel. Lu Bu prepares his weapon. 100,000 men versus one man. Lu Bu announces that those who want to face him should step forward. In a battle, a duel is a flower of the battlefield. In the era of the Three Kingdoms, the best way to fight was to duel. A victory in a duel is the highest prestige of a general. The men from the Guangdong coalition get mad at Lu Bu. How dare he make these types of calls when he is just the pet dog of Dong? The men get really mad. Sun Jiang watches this with a smile. He is just one man, and he is able to rile up so many men without even doing anything. Lu Bu stares at the men with a serious look. The men say that fighting 100,000 men is impossible for even a god, and they said the forbidden word. Lu Bu takes it as a challenge, and he finally smiles. He gestures the men to come at him. He accepts their foolish challenge. One man steps up. He takes Lu Bu's challenge to a duel. This man is Fang Yue Shigao, the vassal of Wang Kuang, the administrator of Hanei. He steps out of the crowd. Behind him, an old man follows and brings Fang's weapon with him. Fang apologizes to his grandpa for making him do this tedious task. The weapon is not small. It is taller than Fang, who is on horseback. Grandpa says that he is only doing his duty. Fang takes his weapon and carries it around flawlessly. The men stare at him in awe. No one knew there was such a beautiful and effortless general. He is carrying a weapon that is around 50 kilos with just one hand. Fang steps into the arena. Grandpa smiles, proud of his grandson to finally show how courageous he is. The one who will defeat Lu Bu Haosen will be the greatest man in all of China, and he will be no other than the unparalleled Lord Fang Yue Shigao. Fang Yue is a humble man. He thanks his grandpa for guiding him all his life. It is only because of him that he is the man he is today. Together, they will bloom now. With this, Fang heads into battle. Fang Yue was born into a broken household. His grandpa taught him everything. He held his first weapon when he was only 5 years old. Thanks to his grandpa's lessons, he was able to master the weapon at the age of 15. Fang Yue has been in battle many times. He was able to rise the ranks and become a general with nothing but his trusty weapon from when he was 5. His only mistake was that he owed his loyalty to the Wang Kuang. Under his leadership, no one in all of Zhongyuan knew who Fang Yue was. But now, the silence ends. With fire in his eyes and his grandfather's voice echoing in his heart, Fang Yue marches not for recognition, but for redemption. His name will no longer be buried under the shadow of another. The time has come for the world to witness his strength, his honor, and the legacy passed down through generations. He is no longer a nameless soldier. He is the storm that follows years of quiet suffering. Let them all remember, Fang Yue was forged in hardship, and now, he fights for something greater than titles. Fang Yue's grandpa cheers him on. Now everyone in China will know who Fang Yue is, but that is not how reality works. Fang Yue runs at Lu Bu, wielding his mighty weapon. History had other plans for Fang Yue. Instead of being crowned the greatest man in all of China, he went down as the general who lost the quickest to Lu Bu Haosen. Grandpa does not believe his eyes. His only hope was shattered by Lu Bu within a second of battle. All the other men stare at Lu Bu with eyes that say that they are in deep trouble. An unbreakable boulder, an impassable mighty river, an unreachable peak. From the day Lu Bu was born, he was the strongest. The administrator of Hanei, Wang Kuang, falls from his horse. He is shocked to see the results. Lu Bu reigns victorious. At that time, a man enters on his horse. The soldiers make way for the man. He is seen eating as he arrives. The general's men also push through the crowd. They stand before Lu Bu, facing off in the distance. The man is the intrepid general, Mu Shun. He is said to have defeated all of the bandits in the Shandong Commandery all by himself. There was a rumor about him. When Mu Shun goes out for a conquest, 1,000 men will rise. The rumor seems true now. Meanwhile, Mu Shun faces off with Lu Bu. Mu Shun praises his strength. He says that there are no hard feelings between men who are at war and are on opposite lines. Mu Shun raises his weapon. He is known everywhere for this powerful technique. People call him the intrepid general for using such an intricate technique. The technique is very smile, aim, and thrust. The thrusts are so powerful they can shave even hair off. The way he can execute big blows and just short thrusts. Mu Shun charges at Lu Bu with all his might. He declares that his name is Kaleido Kilin as he makes a battle cry. Lu Bu does not move at all. Mu Shun thrusts his weapon in Lu Bu's face, but none of them reach Lu Bu. He lets Mu Shun have his fun, and then grabs the edge of his weapon. Everyone at the battlefield gasps at this show of power. With only 2 fingers, Lu Bu flicks his wrist down, and Mu Shun and his horse go flying in the air. Lu Bu takes Mu Shun's weapon next and throws it up. The weapon lands on Mu Shun, and he meets his untimely demise. Lu Bu doesn't even bat an eyelash at the man he just defeated. Instead, he calls the next person to duel him. The people marvel at his strength. From his head to the tips of his fingers, he is covered in raw strength. Now this is what you call a god of war. Sun Jiang knows that Lu Bu is showing off. With the amount of strength and raw power he has, the 100,000 number will fall within a few hours. Lu Bu has defeated 3 generals so far. How many more till someone makes him bend? They clearly need a new strategy. More people rush at Lubu, ready to show off their powers and their skills. Each one of them meet a single swipe of his weapon, and they are defeated. Sun Jiang watches all this unfold in front of him. The people he secretly roots for also face defeat the same way. Sun Jiang keeps sending more men at Lubu, hoping that at least one of them will be able to land just a hot. But before anyone can even reach Lubu, they are on their way to heaven. Lubu doesn't let anyone come close to him at all. Another man rushes at Lubu, and he defeats him instantly. Sun Jiang is starting to lose all hope for this war. Lubu is simply too powerful. No matter how many elite warriors he sends at Lubu simply throws them away like a sack of potatoes. More men keep offering their lives, and Lubu only says one word: next. A large, bulky man steps up. He is the vassal of Kong Rong. He is the latest monster that Zhong Yuan got their hands on, and his name is Wu Angguo. The soldiers see some hope with this man. Maybe he will be able to finally land a scratch on the invincible Lubu. Wu Angguo runs at Lubu. Sun Jiang smiles. Maybe this is the man for the job after all. Instead of using his usual weapon, Lubu pulls out his bow. He draws the bow and gets rid of Wu Angguo in one single hit. Lubu screams for the next person to show up to a duel. The bodies of all the men he defeated in the last 10 minutes lay around him. The men watch in horror. Lubu just took down 9 men consecutively. No man has ever seen this sight before. Lubu isn't an ordinary human being. He is a dragon. All the rumors about him were true. The men panic. How will they ever defeat a beast like Lubu? He is a raging dragon and nothing else. Sun Jiang's men tell him that they will not let him go to face this beast. Like they all just saw, any man who steps near him faces their doom within a few seconds. All of this alliance and this war will be for nothing if Sun Jiang loses to him. Looking at the odds, Sun Jiang won't be victorious even if he trains for 100 years more. Sun Jiang agrees with his men, but he steps forward on his horse. Demu tries to knock some sense into him. He is throwing away a perfectly good legacy. Sun Jiang just says that he needs some fresh air. He steps away from his elite men and does exactly as his men told him not to. There is no stopping Sun Jiang. The look in his eyes said it all. Sun Jiang's men tell him to not lose no matter what happens. Sun Jiang raises his hand as a sign that he has heard them. Sun Jiang steps in the arena. He stands in front of Lubu. Lubu comments that he has been waiting for this fight for some time now. He was starting to grow really tired. It has only been 30 minutes since the battle began, but Lubu has already sent 100,000 soldiers into deep despair. But among all the troops, the sounds of a single horse reverberate through the field. It's Sun Jian, the tiger of Jiangdong. Sun Jian admits that Lubu is on an entirely different level, but this challenge is exactly what he likes. So he jumps off his horse and gets ready to fight Lubu. Lubu accepts the challenge by jumping down so hard that it cracks the very ground he lands upon. Sun Jian accepts he wouldn't have had a chance against Lubu if he remained on his red hare. Sun Jian gets even more excited as Lubu moves towards him and begins to enjoy it all too much. The two haven't even started fighting yet, but the soldiers already feel suffocated by the aura the two are generating. Sun Jian admits that Lubu scares him, but still threatens to devour him. Sun Jian thinks that the first strike will be the final deciding strike, because it is impossible to parry Lubu's strikes. So Sun Jian plans to evade the first strike and take Lubu down afterwards, as it's his only option. He wonders what Lubu's first move will be. Just by observing the 9 strikes previously made by Lubu, Sun Jian predicts over 39 moves of Lubu. Sun assumes that Lu will use an upper thrust. In order to throw off Sun Jian's predictions, Lubu uses an incomplete move on purpose. Sun begins to overthink and wonders if Sun did this because he's bored with the fight, or if Lu is insulting him, or if it's because of his arrogance at being the strongest in China. But he dismisses that too, and thinks that it must be because of joy and respect. Everyone gets surprised at seeing Lu make such a bizarre stance, which is unfit for usage with spear. Lu unleashes it in the near future at Ragnarok, and even Thor, the berserker god of thunder, accepted it as the strongest strike. This move would later go on to become known as the Sky Eater. Sun looks at Lu and begins to feel pressure and fear, as this is the first time in his entire life he's ever felt that he is about to lose his life. Sun takes a look at all his friends and apologizes as he can't back away from a fight that's this fun. Lu sees Sun smile and he too begins to enjoy the fight. In Ragnarok, Sun explains how he was born to a distinguished house of spearmanship, so he had been training ever since he was little, and he used to believe that he could become an undefeated warrior, but wishes that someone had told him that there actually was someone like Lu. Still, Sun is thankful to Lu because in the end he became famous. Because of him as one hit. Fang Yue is a well-known person, and now children even ask him for an autograph. Sun didn't want to fight Lu, as he had witnessed Fang Yue's fall with his own 2 eyes. Sun was shaking from fear, but he had 1,000 of his own subordinates looking at his back, so he couldn't give up, and had to put his life on the line to act cool, but all it resulted in was him losing his life. Fufu rushes to Sister Hilda and whines about her going away, at which she apologizes to her. She explains that she was on a treasure hunt. Fufu gets annoyed, as she was hunting for her, and now she no longer cares about Lord Odin getting mad at her. Hilda is happy right now, as she has made some progress in finding the treasure. The strongest general in China, Lu Bu, had a genius tactician, Chen Gong, who was well known all over China. Chen presents Lu a strategy for the battle, but Lu goes completely off track and does his own thing. But Chen still gets happy as he finds that Lu looks quite cool. Lu ignores Chen's plan every single time, which makes Chen feel that there is something wrong with his plans. So he makes a perfect plan, but still Lu ignores the plan like always, which makes Chen very sad. Chen asks Lu if there is something wrong with his plans, and why he keeps ignoring his plans. Lu smiles and explains that Chen's strategies are guaranteed to bring him victory, but he feels that it would be boring, which makes Chen so happy that he offers his life to him. To counter Lu Bu's bizarre stance, Sun Jian decides to take a special stance. In the Nitanichi Ryu style that Miyamoto Musashi completed, there is a technique that was made to be used with a single longsword. That technique is known as the art of the longsword, 9th form. This technique dodges the enemy's attack and at the same time also attacks them with a single concealed strike. However, 1400 years before the time of Musashi, the same supreme technique was used in the land of China by a tiger. All of Sun's men begin to cheer for him and try to pump him up for the fight. Hearing the cheers of all his men, Sun gets motivated and attacks Lu, determined to surpass him. They both attack each other with a powerful strike. Lu knows that Sun's technique is an unavoidable counter, so Lu summons the Raging Dragon's single strike and looks up to the heavens and unleashes the extraordinary strike that would later ascend into the Sky Eater. Sun freezes as he sees that Lu's strike isn't just fast or heavy, it's in fact massive. Sun apologizes to all his men as it appears that his dream and all their dreams will now come to an end at this point. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, one of Sun's friends jumps into the duel and takes the hit for Sun. He grabs Lu's weapon and refuses to let it go, to give Sun a fighting chance. The man now gets sliced in two, and his final words are for Sun to reach the peak of China. Sun seizes this opportunity, and now in his anger unleashes the fierce Tiger Thunder strike skill. Lu tries to block it with his weapon, but Sun pushes on and manages to break Lu's weapon. However, Sun also falls to the ground. He looks up from the ground to check if his attack did anything, but he sees that he has only made a small shallow cut. An injured Sun feels bad for his friend Durong, and is about to give up now. But just as Lu is about to deal the finishing blow, Sun gets up and is now fully determined to win for Zumao Durong's dream. Lu smashes his weapon in his hand and turns around to leave, which shocks Sun. Lu walks away, announcing that he has now been defeated, which confuses everyone. Soon they begin to realize that Lu had stepped out of the boundary while he was trying to stop Sun's attack. Lu gets on his horse and tells Sun that he should proceed while calling him the Tiger of Jiandong, and that he will be waiting at the capital. Upon seeing Sun win, the soldiers burst into celebration and laugh. Meanwhile, Sun remains on the ground, as he knows that it's not over yet, because right now, they are giving it all to the present. Sun tries to get up to fight Lu in order to avenge Durong, but he just doesn't have the strength and collapses to the ground. Sun Jiang would never get his chance to take his revenge because approximately 2 years later the Tiger of Jiangdong would lose his life in battle. The Guangdong coalition manages to break through Hulao Pass, thanks to Sun's accomplishments, which caused Dong Zhuo to burn down Luoyang and then move the capital to Chang'an. Afterwards, the 100,000 soldiers don't remember the defeat of Dong Zhuo army, but rather they all remember the legends achieved by Lu Bu. It is now the year 192. The man who was said to be the closest to China's peak was in a state of melancholy. The demon god Dong Zhuo Zhongying asks for Lu Bu Fengxian. The man reports to Dong that Lu has been missing since the Battle of Hulao Pass. Dong feels that even now he still doesn't have enough. Shorty tries to comfort him by showing him all the treasure, women, and talented officers he has, and boasts that all of heaven and earth belongs to Dong, and he has now already rivaled the emperor. Shorty thinks he has made a mistake by saying this, so he corrects himself by saying that Dong's authority now surpasses that of the emperor. Dong now gets up his seat, at which the man begins to panic and tries to flatter Dong more, but it doesn't work, and he ends up being smashed by Dong. Dong declares that he doesn't need wealth, women, or people because he can't be the supreme ruler without devouring the strongest first. Dong thinks that if Lu Bu acknowledges him as a true king, he will come. Meanwhile, in the emperor's quarters, Lu Si worries about Dong not accepting the seat of the emperor. Wang Yunzishi, The minister of the masses hears the Emperor Liu and warns him that his voice is too loud. Liu cries that he wants to be freed from Dong as quickly as possible and that he's scared of the possibility of losing his life. Dong has already refused to take the throne of the emperor from Liu several times. Liu thinks that offering the throne directly to Dong was too sudden, so thinks about giving him the position of the Grand Receptor first. And after Dong gets used to the position, he will offer him the throne. Wang hears Liu being humiliated so much and gets angry at Dong because in history, there have been many people who have usurped the throne with their might. But Dong is the only one who has an emperor begging him to be allowed to abdicate the throne, so now, Wang has been backed into a corner. Later, Liu meets with Dong and a man reads the emperor's orders to appoint Dong to the post of the Grand Receptor, which shocks Dong so much that he spits out his food. Wang sees that Dong is unarmed, so he thinks that he can take him out with his poisoned weapon. Liu explains that he has thought about what he needs to do to get Dong to accept the throne, and now asks him if he will accept the position of the Grand Receptor for now. Dong yawns and gets down from his seat and walks right up to Liu, which scares him. Dong calmly announces that he will accept the position for Liu. Wang sees what's going on and gets extremely angry at Dong trying to steal the history and pride that the Han dynasty has been gathering for 400 years. So in order to protect Liu's pride, he decides to act and attacks Dong. However, it fails to do anything, at which Wang loses all hope and prays for someone to come and stop Dong. Suddenly, Dong senses that Lu Bu is nearby and gets all excited searching for him. Dong now claims himself to be the king of China, as Lu Bu now descends right in front of him. Kings who are said to be the strongest in the history of China include the king of Genesis, who was the first to ever unite China, Qin Shi Huang. Han Wud, who defeated the ultimate cavalry army and expanded the vast Han Empire, was called as the supreme king of the land. The man who defeated an army of 400,000 with less than 10,000 men became known as the Transcendent King, Guang Wud. However, among all of them, there was a king in the Three Kingdoms era who had a conspicuous aura. He considered the large territory, reverence from the people, and the title of the emperor worthless, because he only went after strength and tried to be the king of kings. That man's name is demon god Dong Zhuo, who presently is extremely happy at getting the chance to fight Lu Bu. According to records of the Three Kingdoms era, Dong was born in Lintao country in the Longxi commandery of the Liang province, and he would end up becoming the most heinous tyrant in all of history. But that really isn't the truth. Humans hate things that are beyond their understanding, so they try to label them within the bounds of reason. Now, who could Dong Zhuo Zhongying possibly be? The answer is that at the deepest depths of the farthest reaches of the world, unknown to anyone else, at one point they arrived. From the Han Empire, Satavahana dynasty, Kushan dynasty, Parthian Empire, and even from the Roman Empire. Criminals, slaves, and the lower-class people discarded by the world gather and have no concept of origin or hierarchy, nor any laws. The people named the place Savage Land. In a settlement in the western district of Han Dynasty, a brutal attack takes place. Dong is now 14 years old and is already called as the god of the sky Anu. The soldiers try to attack the bandits, but the god of the moon Sin attacks them first. One of the cloaked men laughs that Sin has no mercy, as he attacked the man while he was talking. Sin points out that he is the same at which the god of underworld Nurgle plays dumb, while defeating multiple soldiers at once. A small child gets attacked, and he tries to run away while hiding under his shield, but he trips, and the soldiers get very close to him. However, he grows sharp spikes on his shield, which takes care of the men chasing him. More troops now try to attack the god of protection Nabu, but the god of Venus, Ishtar, steals his targets. A few soldiers see a woman crying inside her cloak and try to help her, but she jumps into the man's arms and then makes fun of him and then attacks them both. The god of water Ea finds it fun to fight this way. A man calls her ambush foolish, at which Ea playfully tells him to show her how it's done. The man explains that when you face a warrior who wields a sword with their life on the line, you have to respond to them in kind and face them head on, as this is the basis of chivalry. Ea gets impressed at the god of Sun Shamash's fighting style and thoughts. A short man hides behind a broken wall and shouts at his men to quickly take care of the bandits. The short man is now the only survivor of the battle, at which he falls down and panics at losing 200 troops to such a small group of people. The man panics and takes out a trinket to show them. He explains that he received this official seal from the aid of the heir to the throne of the Han Empire, so he is considered to belong to the Venerable, and that his noble family is a relative of the Dong's household. His words have no effect as he gets removed from this world in a single massive blow. He now asks if everyone has fulfilled their desires, at which everyone responds by showing all the loot they have gathered. Dong orders his men to take all the women and children as they are now new citizens of the savage land. Dong uses the red juice as face paint and puts it below his eyes and explains that they are just humans. Later, the rubbish bazaar of savage land is just as filthy as always, but Sin admits that it makes him feel comfortable. As they pass through the bazaar, multiple people offer to buy the items from them, but they decline. Suddenly, a hungry kid comes to them and offers them some nuts. Seeing the kid's state, Dong decides to trade the boy lots of food, which makes him happy. An old man hands over some literature to Anu. Dong reads the book and starts to like it, and asks the man what he wants in return. The man thinks for a while and picks a random woman as his reward. Dong acts like this is normal and tells him to take her away. The man gets happy and extends his hands to grab her. The people of Savage Land live freely, but still Dong was always starving for things that couldn't be sated. Dong reads a book but is unable to find what he is looking for, so he asks Sin what kind of country is the Han Empire he was born in, and if the king was competent. Moon reveals that the man's father happened to be king, meanwhile the guy was just an incompetent man who liked to beat up people. Dong now asks Shamash if the king of the Roman Empire was strong, so Shamash reveals that their king was a wuss who couldn't even catch a rabbit on his own. The world is ruled by such trash, so the gang thinks that the savage land is good enough then. The only people who can survive are those who have skills. Anu had 6 friends who were never given their names, so they borrowed the names of the gods worshipped by others and were known as the 7 Grails of Uruk. Anu gets up and asks his men if this world, if a place where wealth decides everything. Anu finds it foolish and thinks that those with strength should reign. Meanwhile, the weak should submit to be abused. Anu now decides that as the people of Savage Land had everything taken from them, Anu declares that now it is their turn to take from others. Anu decides that in the beginning they will attack the country where the client is, and get determined to devour the world. Dong gets happy at finally meeting Lu Bu. Dong shouts at Lu Bu that he has no interest in China, but he instead wishes to unite the entire world as one country. Lu Bu is a man who submits to no one and refuses to be bound to anyone so he can do whatever he wants with his strength. He asks Dong where he will go, but Dong doesn't care, and calls Lu the scale sent from heaven to measure his worth. He gets excited and prepares for battle. An intense battle is about to begin. Lu Bu and Dong are standing against each other preparing to fight. Dong calls out to Lu Bu and claims that he will devour him because only the strong can control a new world. Lu Bu is completely unbothered, standing there with a solemn expression. Dong starts whining, saying that anything is fine as long as it cures his boredom. He summons his own warriors, claiming that they are the strongest. Shamash, the god of sun, Sin, the god of moon, and Nab, the god of protection, show up alongside Dong. Sin says that even the strongest horseman of China will not be enough to be their opponent. Nab stretches and yawns, saying that he was taking a big nap. Nergal, the god of the underworld, claims that he will take Lu Bu's best bones. Istar, the god of Venus, is surprised that this is the Lu Bu he has heard so many rumors of. Ea, the god of water, says that Lu Bu's body looks solid, so they'll have to destroy it. Lu Bu is still completely unbothered, having the biggest poker face ever and looking bored. Dong claims that this is everything he has, and finally gets Lu Bu to respond. Lu Bu smirks and says that he is very good. All the warriors charge at Lu Bu. Ishtar is the first to go after him, but Lu Bu easily pushes him away. Lu Bu pulls out his spear, and Nergal uses his chains to grasp the spear. He laughs and asks if Lu Bu will mind him taking that. Nergal pulls his chains back, trying to take the spear, but it won't move. Lu Bu uses the chains to throw Nergal into a nearby pillar, and Nergal says that this is too bad. He signals his comrades to hit Lu Bu. Suddenly, a bunch of arrows pierce Lu Bu's arm. It is Ishtar, who is using his bow to target Lu Bu's right arm. Lu Bu refuses to let go of his spear, and Ishtar shoots his right arm. Nergal laughs, thinking that they will get him this time for sure. The arrows finally weaken Lu Bu's grip, and Nergal yanks the spear away from him. He holds onto it proudly, proclaiming that he got his heavy weapon. Before Lu Bu can react, a bunch of chains appear behind him and strangle him. The warriors claim that they finished wrapping the furious dragon. Lu Bu looks like a mummy, being covered in chains from head to toe. He wonders what to do, but the warriors aren't going to let him escape. They tighten the chain's hold, strangling Lu Bu even more. Ea leaps in the air and prepares to attack Lu Bu. He explains that Lu Bu won't be able to free himself because these chains are made of special Kegai steel, being stronger than any chains. Ea takes his spear and charges at Lu Bu, saying that he will take advantage of the fact that Lu Bu is completely wrapped up. he plunges down with his spear, ready to devour the strongest warrior of China. But Lu Bu will not be done in like this. Using his sheer strength, Lu Bu breaks both his arms free from the chains and grabs Ia's head. He screams and demands to be released, struggling around and kicking Lu Bu. Despite being wrapped in steel chains, Lu Bu casually crushes Ia's head with a single hand. He takes the poor guy out like it's nothing and tosses his body away. Lu Bu then breaks free from the chains by flexing his muscles and shattering the steel chains. The other warrior watch on in horror, and even Dong is speechless. Lu Bu smirks and remarks that they are good enough. Quyong is sitting peacefully next to a fountain. Someone asks him the reason why he wasn't at Sun Jian's and Lu Bu's one-on-one. Quyong smiles goofily, saying that he played too much. Quyong says that he longs to see a fight between Lu Bu and Dong. He was even excitedly urging Dong to take Lu Bu on, but Dong pushed him to the side, saying that he dislikes Quyong. Quyong smiles and claims that that is how he was slain. Dong was looking for the best fight, but he is upset that Quyong involved him. Someone asks Quyong if he regrets it, and he claims that he does, several times. But he complains that he couldn't see the confrontation of the strongest one in China, the furious dragon Lu Bu and the demon Dong Zhuo. Quyong exclaims that he can only imagine the intense battle between those two, and it makes his blood boil. Quyong smiles like a madman, saying that it is cruel that he didn't get to see the battle with his own eyes. His eyes light up, and he eagerly starts asking how the fight between the two monsters went. He says that the fight must have been incredible. He calms himself, saying that he doesn't that unintentionally when he is too excited. Quyong smiles in peace, being glad that he got a taste of the dark side of the demon Dong Zhuo. He says that he wasn't entirely wrong in supporting Dong Zhuo's side. He starts laughing, thinking that he is still bad with insects. Lu Bu has completely destroyed Ia. Even his face is not recognizable. Others become cautious around our man, and blame Ia for getting cocky and get himself murdered. Dong plucks a bead from the necklace he is wearing while remembering Aya, and when he gets serious about fighting Lu Bu, the baldy with a long ponytail, who is the god of moon, called Sin, steps forward and stops him from stepping into the fight. He says if he dies now, their dream will be over. All have promised that they will make him the king of the world, as the Straw Hats promised with Luffy. With this, everyone gets serious about surpassing the limits and defeating the monster in front of them. Lu Bu is as cocky as ever, and challenges all of them to come at him at once. Ishtar sees that Lu Bu is challenging them without a weapon and a beaten-up body, and rushes forward, asking him not to underestimate them. He throws several kunai that our man dodges with just flinging his head. At the same time, Gorilla Man Shams pops up and attacks with his sword, bigger than Asta's sword, which Lu Bu dodges by pulling back one step. With his bare foot, he counters attack and throws a hit to Gorilla Man, almost twisting his neck and breaking his skull. Yet, he does not die, and grabs his arm, trying to break it and separate it from his body. But Lu Bu is the main character here, and takes over the fight to throw him on the ground, smashing his body with a powerful punch. Copy of Brook, Nergal rushes forward and throws several pointed weapons, and at the same time, other members rush, thinking that if he dodges this attack, they will take him down for sure. But Lu Bu stands firm, and lets himself be hit by pointed weapons and smiles at ruining their plan. Now Sin and Nergal both try their combo attacks. Nergal throws his chains at our man and anchors him at one spot, whereas Sin rushes forward to attach him with a large, circle-shaped weapon. Lu Bu bends backwards and dodges this attack, and then pulls back to an upright position. Before he deals with Sin, he takes care of Nergal first by grabbing chains to pull him, and throwing a bulky punch to finish him off right away. This time, before Sin comes for an attack, Lu Bu stomps towards him with his big bare feet, but Ishtar throws pointed weapons at his arm and injures him, though it does not impact him much. Sin takes this chance to pull back and finds himself in a desperate position, thinking Lu Bu is still powerful even after they have taken his gun, because he is a weapon himself. He guides Ishtar and Nab not to react recklessly and maintain a distance while dealing with him. They are highly cautious around Lu Bu. Suddenly he kneels down and throws off a powerful aura, making his muscles bulkier like Hulk, which confuses everyone. In the blink of an eye, he leaps towards Ishtar, taking large and heavy steps that even break the ground where he stomps. Ishtar throws his pointed weapons that go useless against Lu Bu, who dodges them and rushes forward to grab his head and crash it against a tower. However, he suddenly feels numbness in his body. Ishtar has not died yet, and laughs at him, saying he is caught up in his poison attack. But Lu Bu shows them why he is called a monster. He bites his arm to suck a glass of blood, and throws it over the disabled body of Ishtar. He then stomps on the blood to splashes it, and makes a bloodbath, and crazily challenges them to come at him. Lu Bu stands menacingly and laughs, as Nabu and Sin tremble with fear. Ishtar's poison arrows are good enough to take out an elephant, but they did nothing to Lu Bu, which makes them think that he is a monster. Nabu trembles uncontrollably, and asks Sin if this is what fear feels like. Sin replies that yes, this is exactly what fear is, as he has also been shaking for some time now. They realize that the situation is hopeless, because even if they had multiple lives, they wouldn't have been able to defeat Lu Bu. Seeing their situation, they decide to at least take out one of Lu Bu's feet with them for King Anu. Lu Bu shouts at the two to come and attack him, at which the two rush him together. Nabu grows spikes on his shield and tries to aim at Lu's leg, but he easily dodges by jumping up. Lu tries to crush Nabu's shield from above, so Nabu grows spikes on his shield to avoid that, but Lu still strikes Nabu's shield directly, which sends him flying. It hurts Nabu a lot, but he still laughs because he managed to lodge a spike in Lu's right foot. Lu makes his "Are you serious?" face, and then dislodges the spike with his foot's muscles, which shocks Nabu and Sin, as they can't believe that Lu managed to use his foot's muscles to remove the spike, and then stop the bleeding. Lu smiles, and then gets ready to attack them both. Nabu questions just how much further Lu intends to go, and Sin wonders why someone as evil as Lu was even born on this planet. Lu takes the warrior god stance and prepares to attack. Sin understands that if Lu attacks them, then they will lose their lives, so the best thing they can do is choose an end without shame. Nabu agrees with Sin, as the 7 vessels of Uruk have always had a choice. Nabu asks Sin to cut off his foot with his blade, while he stops Lu with his shield. Sin agrees, and optimistically adds that he might be able to take both feet. The two sides stare down at each other before Nabu and Sin rush Lu together once more. Lu also rushes towards Nabu and strikes his spiked shield with his bare foot. The impact is so strong that he pierces the shield, and then even goes straight through Nabu. Sin tries to seize the opportunity and strike Lu's foot to claim it for the 7 vessels of Urk, but Lu smashes the ground, which sends a large slab flying to block Sin's view. Afterwards, Lu smashes right through the slab and punches Sin right in his face. In front of Lu Bu, none could say their final words and were silently defeated. The 7 vessels of Uruk, who ruled the Han Empire in the shadows for nearly half a century, were now gone. Dong views the scene now and takes off his necklace and apologizes to his friends for failing to protect them, and now decides to face Lu Bu on his own. Dong now calls Lu Bu a warrior god who transcends humanity and announces that the heavens will now witness their battle, and wraps his friendship necklace around his fist. Lu Bu also takes a deep breath and gets ready for battle while calling Dong king. Dong gets surprised at being called king by Lu. Dong gets happy as the strongest warrior in China called him king. Not even the Han Empire's palace, beautiful women, or an emperor's power could fill his heart that much. Dong laughs like a madman and gets excited for his fight with Lu. Dong takes out his dragon weapon and rushes Lu to strike him, but Lu easily manages to dodge his attack and then tries to punch him in his face, but Dong blocks the attack by grabbing his fist. Dong now mocks Lu by asking him what's wrong. Lu frees himself from Dong's grip, and then both punch each other at the same time, and then begin laughing as they find this exciting. Lu now asks Dong if he is having fun too. Lu the dragon only wanted to fight someone strong. Meanwhile, Dong the king dominates warriors to rule the world. The two warriors risk their lives while traveling different paths. Now didn't need any words to communicate, as they were completely fulfilled. Dong now attacks Lu with his weapon and manages to strike his face, which hurts him, but now even Dong's life has reached his end. Dong gets surprised as Lu literally face tanks his strongest attack in order to pay his respects to Dong Zhuo. Dong realizes what's going on as he sees that Lu didn't even bother to dodge the attack. Suddenly a piercing sound is heard as Lu manages to punch right through Dong. Lu takes his hand out of Dong and worriedly asks him if he's still alive while calling him the mightiest king, and gets sad at seeing the expression Dong makes. Dong tells Lu Bu that he might have an opponent in this world. Upon hearing this, Lu gets excited and asks Dong where his opponent is. At this, Dong points his finger straight upwards and replies that Lu's opponent is in the heavens and falls to the ground, telling Lu to get rid of the gods. According to the romance of the 3 kingdoms, the death of Dong is described as a cruel ending at Lu Bu's hands. However, in reality, Dong passed away with a smile on his face. The people said that Lu Bu's face didn't show any sadness, but after winning he stood alone with a heartbroken expression and enjoyed the rain. The boy gleefully explains that it was his dream to ride a horse with a handsome mane, figure overflowing with grace and strong sturdy legs, but he failed as there was only one person who was able to tame him. The Luoyang city in 189 AD exceeded 1 million inhabitants, as it was a capital city. The city had multiple zones outside it. The city had an iron cage of the savage horse, which contained the world's strongest horse, which was also rumored to be the evilest horse in the world. It was also known as the Red Hare. The ownership of the horse depended on the horse accepting them. Many people would come to see the horse, but some would be foolish enough to come close to it and try to ride it. A boy tries to do the same, but an old man comes to stop the boy, warning him that it will be impossible for him no matter what. The Red Hare is considered as one of the 3 jewels of China, and is also the most sinister horse in the history of China that can run 500 kilometers in a single day. However, this evil horse hasn't been ridden by anyone so far. The boy gets even more excited at this, and now wishes to ride the horse even more than before. The boy gets kicked to the ground as a few men make their way through. The boy tries to pick a fight with them, but the old man stops him as it's Wang Lia, the son of Wang Liang, a rich merchant from Luoyang. Wang Liang is involved with the ministers as he offers them bribes, so it would do no good to harm him. Lia came to see the Red Hare as his father spoke highly of it, but Lia isn't impressed by it. His 2 lackeys butter him up by saying that he will be able to easily master the horse. Lia enters the cage on his own, despite the others telling him to not go. Lia tries to tame the horse and tries to touch him. However, the horse has other ideas and kicks him so hard that he flies out of the cage, after which Lia leaves defeated. The old man comments that if the Red Hare was serious about kicking Lia, then he would no longer have had a head. The boy gets excited at the strength of the horse and comments that if he's careless, then he too would be sent flying. But before he can do anything, Lu Bu walks by them and heads towards the horse. The horse instantly senses that someone strong is approaching it. The horse turns towards Lu Bu because of its animal instincts and makes eye contact with Lu. The onlookers see this and wonder if the horse will finally accept a person. The horse didn't consider the existence of Lu a threat to itself, and simply stared at Lu eating a carrot, all because it smelled the odor of someone strong. Lu throws the carrot away and taunts the horse to have a go. This was the first time in the million years of mankind that a person would race against a horse. Lu Bu wonders which one of them will be the fastest. He challenges the Red Hare, saying that they must race till they collapse. They can't speak the same language, but both are at the top of their respective species. They are both the strongest. Lu Bu and the Red Hare get in position. They are ready to race with all their might, stomping their feet against the ground in anticipation. The crowd watches on with excitement, and the race starts. Both of their instincts were yearning for a duel, and they run off with unreal strength. Side by side, they run so fast that they leave a huge trail of dust behind them. Neither of them is willing to give up, and the outcome is totally uncertain. One moment, the Red Hare is in the lead, and the next moment, Lu Bu is in the lead. Both the man and the horse just kept running as far as they could. Passing through a canyon, the horse is in the lead, but he stops to look back. Lu Bu is right behind him, moving with crazy speed while smirking about how good the horse is. In the middle of his run, the Red Hare suddenly gets hit with arrows. The hare squeals and looks up to see a bunch of crazy bandits who are celebrating their successful hunt. They run down the hill and surround the horse. Someone starts clapping, expressing how incredible it is to meet the legendary horse in a place like this. The man says that he is so lucky, and Red Hare neighs loudly. The man takes his mask off and tells the horse to take a good look. He says that he was once the most handsome man in Luoyang, but now his face looks deformed. He begrudgingly asks how the horse could do that to his face. Feeling vengeful, the man points at the Red Hare and demands that this monster be sliced up. His men heed his orders and charge at the horse. Suddenly, as if a heavy gust of wind, Lu Bu shows up out of nowhere and runs up to the whiny man. Everyone is shocked by Lu Bu's sudden appearance, but he simply tells the man to move. Lu Bu slaps him across the face, twisting his neck and taking him out. The other henchmen are terrified after seeing that and decide to run away. Lu Bu watches them go, but he has more important things to worry about. Lu Bu turns around to see his companion Red Hare in terrible state. The horse is full of arrows all over, but it still gets up. It tries to move towards Lu Bu, stumbling and falling down on the way. Lu Bu seems disappointed and asks if Red Hare can still run. Being a loyal comrade, Lu Bu decides not to leave his horse behind. He picks up the horse over his shoulders, and even Red Hare is shocked by his absolute strength. Lu Bu is carrying the horse like a backpack, and decides to head back home. Seeing Lu Bu carry him despite being completely exhausted, Red Hare understood and felt his own defeat. Lu Bu looks at the beautiful sunset and asks the horse if he can ride it forever. This is how Lu Bu met his war partner, and they decided to run together for the rest of their lives. The kid sitting near the fountain knows that his aura was different. After that whole ordeal, Lu Bu returned to Luoyang while carrying the Red Hare. The kid says that he feels like the whole world belongs to those two. It feels like no one else can disturb them. He realizes that it is exactly as he thought. Red Hare's back is made for Lu Bu. He thinks that that can't be possible, and suddenly gets distracted by a wound on his chest. He says that he wanted to ride Red Hare behind advisor Chen Gong's back, but he ended up giving him this wound instead. The first fighter on the side of humanity in the final battle of gods versus humans is Lu Bu, the horseman who suppressed the great army of 100,000. Many heroes hated this furious dragon. He was so hated that he even got into a fight with a god in Valhalla, and was recognized by everyone as the strongest man in China. However, in his entire life, only once did he shed a tear. Outside the Jian district of Wuyan County, two people come across many bodies lying on the ground, and they assume that it was the done by bandits. They come across a child who's still alive, but the baby isn't crying or laughing, he is just frozen. One of the men tries to grab the baby when suddenly a man shouts at them to not touch him. The man explains that the child is evil because he was born during the red moonlight, and so will bring a bloody disaster. This is the legend that has been handed down since ancient times, so the great elder suggests leaving the child alone. The man realizes that this is the reason the child is making such a face despite its age. The man pities the child, but still readies his weapon to eliminate him. But the child remains unscratched as his weapon gets damaged by the thick skin. A man spots them and runs towards them, calling them crazy for wanting to hurt a child like that. The man Lu Shang tries to talk them out of the deed, as who are they to decide whether a child will be evil or not, as no one will know. Lu Shang picks up the child and smiles at his warmth. The two men begin to panic while Shang simply has some fun, and points out that the baby looks like him as they both have similar noses, but the two men don't believe that. Shang happily announces that the baby will be a part of his family and decides to raise him and has some fun playing with him. The two men see the scene and laugh along as they know that there is no way to talk Shang out of what he has decided. The great elder is against Shang's decision, as he thinks that letting the evil child live will bring disasters to their village, so there is no way he will let Shang raise it. Shang gets on his knees and begs the elder to let him do this, and promises to raise the child as his own son, as the sin of the child shall be borne by the father. And if something happens as said in the legends, then he promises to atone for it by offering his life. The elder asks Shang why he is going to such lengths for someone else's child, but before Shang can reply to the child playfully tugs at his beard and laughs. Shang happily says that protecting a child's smile is the duty of an adult. The elder gives up and leaves, telling Shang to do as he wishes. Shang smiles happily and names the baby Lu Bu Hausen. 9 years later, the village is now considered as a part of Inner Mongolia. When Lu Bu was born, the area was under the control of the Han Empire, and various nomads and mixed Chinese used to live together. A man called Daruji wins another wrestling match and confidently asks who his next opponent will be. He spots a boy walking behind him while dragging a hunted boar and gets surprised. This boy is Lu, who is now 9 years old. The people recognize him as the evil child of Lu Shan and tell Daruji to throw him at least once. But Daruji is frozen with fear and panic, saying he has no chance against Lu Bu, and begins to cry. Lu Bu only says hi, which makes Daruji run away in panic.